because I know there's some other names of players that you think folks should be watching for Rivalry Series.
You can't ignore Abby Murphy. After what she did in the first leg of Rivalry Series, getting a hat trick,
nasty business.
Not ignore Abby Murphy. If she's able to still put up points, then start ringing the alarm bell. Because she's officially a problem.
Abby Murphy arrived in a big way. Now we're about to find out if she's here to stay. Bear with us if some of our predictions or players to watch don't come to pass. But it's even more impressive, Ava, if we nail it, knowing that the game is just in a few hours of us recording. Fellow hockey fans and Seattle sports fans, Erica L. Ayala here alongside Ava Wood. This is another episode of the 206 Sports Collective, and we are here to talk about the Seattle Torrent. As you know, I am the founder of Black Rosie Media, where we empower Black women and melanated creators in sports media. Ava Wood is the founder of 365 Hockey Girl, which just celebrated a year, Ava. Congratulations.
Thank you. I can't believe it's only been a year.
I mean, it feels like only a year, but also it's been a year. Like, what in the world? We're so grateful for your voice and that you are now, of course, contributing via this podcast on Black Rosie Media. And speaking of, if you're not already following us and you're watching on video, check out our handles on social media. You can also find them in the show notes. And Black Rosie Media through the 206 Sports Collective and all of our podcasts, you can find on our YouTube channel, Black Rosie Media, but you can also find it, your favorite podcast, whether it's this 206 Sports Collective. We have At Even Strength, which is our comprehensive women's hockey show where we talk about all the teams, not just Seattle, like Ava and I will do. We have Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, and Tempestagi Talk, which is about the Seattle Storm. You can find all of those on your favorite audio listening platforms as well. You can also go to transistor.fm, where you can find Black Rosie Media and our sports podcasts, everything in the show notes. But Ava and I have a lot to talk about, including we were both at the first ever win for the Seattle Torrent. We made some predictions on who would be the first goal scorer, and we got them right. We named Alex Carpenter, so we'll do the callback there. We're gonna talk about what it was like to be in the rink. I know you, after the game, got to speak to the winning goaltender, who we'll get into in a little bit, because that was a storyline that neither one of us predicted on the last show. Then we're going to talk about Rivalry Series, and we'll close out this episode talking about power rankings. So Ava, you and I gave our power rankings last episode, and now that we are in an international break, each team has played at least 3 games. Some have played a few more. We will give our power rankings once again. But okay, first win. We know what the goal song is, Ava. You were in the crowd, also made the twins, which was awesome. Yeah. With your Barbie outfit and your Barbie. I loved that. That was awesome. Yes, I love it. For those not watching on video, Ava is got her crew neck on and says, "My hockey Barbies are gay." That's a whole movement. We've talked about it before. But Ava, I'm going to let you get first take. Vibes after first win, second ever home game for the Seattle Torrent.
Oh my God, it was amazing. And even before they won, I felt like the vibes in that building were absolutely electric. Like, I think the vibes were even better than at the home opener, which is crazy to say because there was actually half the amount of people in that crowd. There was only 8,000 people in that crowd. But like, because they hadn't scored in the home opener, everybody was just holding their breath waiting for that first goal. Like, anytime they would come even remotely close to a goal, people start getting their phones out. They're like, oh my God, this is going to be it. This is going to be it. So like, the energy level in that building was already so high. And then to get the first ever goal, the crowd went wild.
Insane.
And then the second ever goal right after that.
22 seconds later. But it was an entire vibe. And we have to talk, though, because from the hockey perspective, and I want to get back to vibes because the vibes were good. But we have to talk about how the team got to those goals, because it did take a little bit of support from the Zebras, which up until that point, if I'm going to give my analysis, Seattle is not getting a very home-friendly whistle at Climate Pledge Arena. They are not. And yet they end up on a 5-minute power play, a 5-minute major assessed to Kristina Kaltsenkova. I know that we were just talking off air about Czech Women's Hockey Report. If you're not following Preston and the Czech Women's Hockey Report, please do that. I've had him on podcasts before. We love talking about pronunciations. He's amazing. His team is amazing. Him, his wife, and his friend, they do great work. But it seemed like people might think that hit was a little bit controversial. Maybe it wasn't. It shouldn't have been a 5-minute major. When I saw that hit, Anna Wilgren in the corner could not defend herself or brace herself. That's how close she was to the wall. Or sometimes people say, like in baseball, there's a warning track. Obviously, there's not literally a warning track in hockey. I was okay with it being a 5-minute major.
Yeah, I think looking back on it, it's easy to say, oh, that was a 5-minute major that altered the outcome of the game. But then I clipped the penalty and I put it online. I was like, hey, let's have a discussion about this. Tessa Bonham even came in and weighed in. She's like, yeah, that should have been a penalty. I think everybody pretty much was in agreement that should have been a penalty. So I don't think it was a controversial call. Definitely a controversial penalty because it lost them the game.
Yeah.
But I don't think the call was controversial.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just real quick before I get back to you, but you mentioned Tessa. I think people might say, oh, it's a penalty, but is it a 5-minute major? Here's the thing. Once you agree that that's a penalty, and again, you look at where Anna Wilgren was and where the contact was made, which was at best shoulder, but maybe higher than that, then if you look at how hockey is being officiated at all levels, now hockey hasn't had its come to science, I'll say, moment when it comes to CTE. And there are things that are starting to change when it comes to the conversation, and hits, again, shoulder and above, when a player is in a vulnerable position. That's what you hear a lot when you hear a hockey broadcast. Vulnerable position is being weaned out. I thought it was interesting when I was with Rachel Donner on our overall PWHL podcast. What she was saying is that the thing that makes it tough for players like Kalti is that they are used to a physical game. And you can, and I think that's a good argument. And Kalti has also played in the NCAA. So you have to be able to balance that. Now, is it fair? No. That's something that we talked about in the PWHL since its inception. They wanted to kind of blend rules or play around with a little more physicality, but you need time for the players and especially the officials to figure out what that line is. And so I think multiple things can be true. Tough call. Kalti there was no ill will or intent. It was not a vicious, violent hit in that it was intentional. The violent, and again, I don't even know if I would use the word violent. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. It's a dangerous hit because of where Wilgren was, and again, did not have the ability to defend or brace herself. And you saw it was helmet straight into the wall, and not just the half wall. So it was the curved part of the wall, which also in and of itself creates problems. I think when you look at all of that, you take the players out of it. Yes, this is where hockey is saying at all levels we want to go. I do think it's fair, though, to say, I already told you how I felt about the officiating. Officiating hasn't been great in Seattle. I'm standing on that take. That was the right call. Brutal call, because that was effectively the rest of the game. And Seattle needed that power play, that 5-minute power play to get level with a Sirens team that had been playing really well. So, I mean, it's tough. I will give it tough for all parties involved. And I think it was the right call.
Yeah, it was definitely the right call. And even with that call, it wasn't guaranteed that Seattle would win that game.
No, not at all.
So, yeah, they needed that call for sure, but kudos to the players as well for getting it done.
Yeah, 100%. Now we talked about goaltending ahead of this. We gave our, Seattle needs Seattle a win if, and we both talked about Corrine Schroeder, Ava, but oh no, Coach O'Rourke had something else in mind. And he put up the rookie, Hannah Murphy, against a fellow Colgate alum in Kaylee Osborne. And boy, did we get, honestly, what was a fantastic goaltender battle between those two.
This was amazing. This was Hannah Murphy's night. She was the main character of that game. And what's even more impressive about it was that this was Seattle's first time seeing her. And they just instantly fell in love with her. Like, to be in the crowd and to hear everybody chanting Murphy, Murphy was honestly mind blowing. Because I was like, wow, like I'm witnessing the fan culture be developed in real time. Like
100%.
It felt like a historic moment. It felt like the beginning of an amazing story. So
yeah. And we've seen that in Seattle hockey at Climate Pledge Arena, just a goaltender endearing themselves. I always shout out, Martin Jones. The only reason that the Seattle Kraken made the playoffs in season 2 is because Martin Jones bailed them out enough for Philip Grubauer then to be healthy in the postseason and get through Colorado. Go look it up. I've talked about this before. Obviously, not the same situation for the Torrent. It was game 2 at home, 3 overall for them. So not the same situation, but just it was amazing. Hannah talked to us post-game. I know you got to catch up with her after and go check out 365 Hockey Girl for some of that, along with, her roommate, Jenna, and just great stuff that you always do. I will say, just this is not our PWHL podcast, and I think it's worth noting that did the Seattle Torrent break the sirens? Because they then went to Vancouver, and you were at that game, and the Sirens did not have a good West Coast trip.
I don't think we broke the Sirens, honestly. Like, the Sirens didn't play their best, but I still don't see, like, I sometimes I call the teams cooked endearingly because I'm like, oh, this team is so cooked. I don't think the Sirens are cooked. Like, they didn't play their best, but it more so is a reflection of just how they perform. Like, I don't think they're a bad team or anything like that. No. And also, like, I think they could have beat Seattle if they didn't take the penalty. Like, well, it wasn't their best game by far, but they could have won that game. And then the Golden Eyes game is just all Mashmeyer.
I mean, what can you say? Got goalied. What can you say? Got goalied. It happens. But just come back to Seattle. So we did make some predictions also on goal scorers. Now, I said at the first game, and I've talked about this before, I was talking with the guys from Emerald City Hockey. They're like, who you got scoring? I was like, I gotta go with it's gonna be either Carpy, MGM, or I think I said Gosling for that first game. And then you and I talked about it. And I was like, I'm keeping 2 carryovers. And I said Carpy, MGM. And then I also gave Snodgrass a shout out. And so did Coach O'Rourke. Liked how she's playing. She's doing all of the right things. But it was Alex Carpenter. Got the first goal. Carpy, just that hard nose, attacking the net. She does so much for the Torrent on the power play, on that top power play. And again, this was a 5-minute major. So even if they scored, which obviously they did, they were going to get to stay on that power play. And again, I cannot emphasize enough how much that made a difference, because if they get that power play goal, then, the New York Sirens get a player back. Do we see the Hillary Knight goal? I mean, maybe not. They were 22 seconds apart, but both were, Knighter was literally falling on the ground trying to poke that puck in. There was a lot of desperation. And it made for exciting hockey. I'm just glad for the sake of the Torrent fans and honestly my anxiety that it worked out, because that was a wild game. Like, if you had a rooting interest, you probably hated that game at multiple times as someone who is a neutral and working in the press. But obviously, Seattle press media, I thought it was like, wow, this is when you, like, after the game, you sit down in your seat and you just take a deep sigh. And you're like, what did I just see? And of course, 2 of the Olympians. I know you always love to talk about, if you love international hockey, if you love Olympians, you have to love the Seattle Torrent. And case in point, I love that you get the 2 veterans scoring in basically back-to-back or response goals, as Allison Lucan, friend of the pod, will say. And then again, the storyline of the rookie. I think it's amazing. All of that, though, meant that we got to hear the official goal song of the Seattle Torrent. And again, you were at practice after the win. The players were like, we didn't even hear it. We don't even know. But
Yeah.
Ava, what is the goal song? What do you think about the choice?
Yeah, the goal song is Misery Business. As somebody in the stands, I also couldn't hear it at first, but I think it's the perfect choice for Seattle because it's kind of like that punk pop vibe. So it'll appeal to all of the hipsters. It'll appeal to all of the women's hockey fans. It's a good choice.
I think so. I know that the Brown family, so JT Brown is an analyst on the Seattle Kraken on the Seattle Kraken broadcast, excuse me, also on the Seattle Kraken official podcast, I should say, with Piper Shaw. But his family, his wife and his daughter actually got picked to go on stage for a Paramore concert. I don't remember what song they were singing, so I can't. And if it was Misery Business, that would be hilarious. But I just know that that's like a moment in Seattle hockey history because I've talked to JT about it, and he was like, I had FOMO. Like, why wasn't I on the stage? He's like, no, it was awesome. So that's pretty cool too. I think Paramore in Seattle, like you said, for just the genre and kind of the vibe is great, but then also there's that hockey connection. So shout out to Lexi Brown, who is an amazing follow if you're not already on social media. Okay, so Hannah Murphy debuts. We get the goal song. We get a win for the Seattle Torrent team, but they still have a lot of work to do. And some of this is by design of the schedule, and the Torrent haven't played since they got that win, but other teams, including, of course, the Sirens, as we've talked about, have. So right now, Ava, they have 4 points in the standings. They are in 7th place. Ottawa in the basement. Oh, Ottawa. But we're gonna get your power rankings a little bit later. But when you look at where the teams are in the break, any big surprises for you?
I think Boston. Boston is the biggest surprise. Because I think people I don't think people thought they were going to be good. I didn't think they were going to be good.
I thought they were going to be too young I didn't think they were going to get it together the way they have early on. Yeah. Like we said, but I think we both said this before, right? Like, didn't doubt Aaron Frankel. No. But you have a new head coach. You've got young talent. You lose Hillary Knight. So, like, Keller takes over as captain. Like, what's going on there? Also, I will say, I've said this before, Susanna Topany, keeping Susanna Topany had to happen. Had to happen, Boston. You cannot lose a player like that. So I'm with you. I think Boston, you were right on the money when it came to Montreal Victoire in our last power rankings. Toronto has seen some jockeying between really kind of like the 3 and 5 spot. But again, some of that's just with the schedule. You've got New York and Vancouver have played 5 games, but then you have Seattle and Montreal who've only played 3. So it's not necessarily an even schedule in this break that we're in. International break, Ava, because not only do we have Rivalry Series Part 2 in 2025, but we also have Euro Tour. And thank you to our friends over at Czech Women's Hockey Report. Again, Preston, I've reached out to him. We're actually going to talk a little bit about what to expect in Euro Tour because they also have some games. And Rivalry Series, we're recording the night of game 1, it's December 10th. So just bear with us if some of our predictions or players to watch don't come to pass. But it's even more impressive, Ava, if we nail it, knowing that the game is just in a few hours of us recording. But okay, so it is a break for the PWHL, and that is because we've got national team players that are with their teams. Now, we've talked about this, Rachel and I, on our league podcast at Even Strength. But Hockey Canada, they were a little late to announce their roster. And last time, I should say, for the first 2 games in the United States. But they were the first federation for the Rivalry Series to announce their roster this time around. And it includes some of the veterans that were left off, which seemed like it was very intentionally, Ava, to give them a little bit of rest and also to give some young talent in the pipeline an opportunity, knowing that we are heading into an Olympics in just less than 60 days. It's like 56, 55 days before the Winter Olympics.
Yeah, honestly, I think it was a really interesting decision for them to go with more like youth in the first leg of the Rivalry Series and then more veterans in the second half of the Rivalry Series. just considering that Rivalry Series is happening so close to the Olympics, right? Like, I think my question would be, would any of the youth from that first leg actually make it into the Olympic roster? But kind of based on this, my gut is telling me maybe they're just going to go all veterans in the Olympics.
Yeah, it's highly likely. Injuries might impact that. Unfortunately, we've seen injuries week to week for Sarah Nurse, right? For Daryl Watts. Unfortunately, I know we're talking about we're talking about Hockey Canada right now, and we're going to talk about the U.S. shortly, but also some other players that could impact the Olympics. Again, I want to talk about the Euro Tour and Team Czechia, but Aneta Terelova, we know, has also been injured. We've seen her on the ice at practice. So the injury, I'm hoping, is not as bad as I thought it was when I first saw it, because she has been able to be mobile and get on the ice during sessions. She's not full contact or anything from the last time I saw Ava. Well, actually, let me ask you, you were at the practices after the Seattle Torrent home game. What are we seeing from Terelova? Has she been able to be integrated fully yet, or is it still kind of practicing and skating on her own?
The last practice I went to was more of just like a power skating practice. So she was out there skating, but I'm not quite sure of her full status.
Right, exactly. And so that leads me to think that is probably more of the same, especially knowing it's an international window, no contact. So she's not running drills, but she is doing, to your point, skating drills. So if that was a power skating session, then that makes sense. But yeah, they still don't want her, I guess, jostling around, so to speak. Speaking of jostling, Jocelyn Larocque, right, is one of the veterans that's back. And Renee Debienne was a big omission. Not that we thought there was any worry of not seeing her closer to the Olympics, but it's an opportunity for some of the young blood. But this, Ava, lends itself to a conversation that I have all of the time. Where do we see the top two teams? And they go back and forth. Some years it's the United States, some years it's Canada. Every once in a while it's been Switzerland or Finland, and Czechia, actually, I should say, whether Worlds or Olympics. But overwhelmingly, the United States and Canada are the top two teams in every tournament. They finish 1-2. It's almost always an overtime between the two of them. But as the rest of the federations that are competing continue to have players that compete in the PWHL or that are playing at an elite level in the NCAA, are you a little bit concerned that there's not more of a youth movement for the two North American squads?
Yes and no. I think USA definitely has a stronger NCAA core. They have, at least in the near future, they have a strong NCAA core. I am not sure about Canada's NCAA core, and that could just be because they don't have very many NCAA players on their roster. But when I look at the next Olympics, it's all going to come down to who has the strongest young core. And I feel like USA could have that, and I'm not sure about Canada. And again, that could be on me because I don't watch like the U18s, right? Like I don't really watch the other level. So it could just be there's players that I haven't seen yet. Yeah. But if one of these other countries, say Czechia, has a stronger young core, they could potentially overtake Canada.
And Czechia is one of the teams. I've said this before, Czechia on the women's and men's side, I do think that they're focusing on their young talent. It's not that they're overlooking their senior teams, but they're like, okay, we've got some senior players that are helping raise our stock when it comes to be successful at juniors on the men's side, at the senior level on the women's side. And so it's now like, let's pour in some resources here. Well, I hope resources, but definitely there's some talent that's coming up. So I think it's a really interesting point. But let's stick with the Rivalry Series, a game on the 10th, which is the day that we're recording. Excuse me. And then December 13th is game 2. Both of them are in Edmonton. You can watch in the United States on NHL Network. I believe it's TSN that carries that. I've said this on with Rachel. We had to endure the legend blue liner of one Megan Bozak wearing a Hockey Canada sweater. I cannot believe how upset. I'm still upset by that. I better see Sammy Joe Small wearing a USA hockey jersey tonight. Like, they need to get that done ASAP. There is I need some reciprocity. There is no way that I'm going to endure seeing Megan Bozak in a Hockey Canada sweater and not see a Hockey Canada legend wearing a USA hockey sweater, because their jerseys have just been released as well. Make it happen, TSN or whoever. Like, make it happen. I need to see it, or else I'm gonna have some strong words at the next event that I'm at. But jokes aside, let's first start with the Torrent players. Let's talk about some players to watch. I'm going to kick us off here because before I left Seattle, I mean, very RIP sad face. I'm so sad that I'm not in Seattle. I am glad that I get to go home, like home to New York for a little bit for the holidays. So that will be good. But before I left Seattle, I got a chance to talk with Danielle Sardagny. And I'm going to give just a little bit of a taste, Ava, because we talked about her going into the Rivalry Series and what it's been like to be a part of now a senior national team where she's skating with one of her idols, the very own Captain Clutch of Hockey Canada, Marie-Philippe Poulin.
You know, how are things settling in here in Seattle so far?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I've been here for a few weeks now, but the group gets along really well, as you could probably see out there. We have lots of fun together, and I think hockey's coming together as well too. I think, when you put a team of players that haven't played together, it might take a little bit of time, but I think we've made some great progress, and looking forward to the game tomorrow.
When you come to an expansion team, there's always a conversation about, what is the team identity going to be and things of that nature. And it seems like it's an opportunity also for an individual player to maybe redefine your game or to just, expand it. How have you approached that? Are there things in your game that you really want to be able to put on display here in Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, I think just playing on both sides of the puck. I think last year I kind of struggled, I would say, a bit offensively, but the coaches here have been super supportive of me kind of playing my game and playing to my strengths. So I think continuing to implement that in my game, and then also just building chemistry with new line mates. I think Jesse and Bilka are both great players, and they're very skilled and very smart. So I think that's going to all come together. But yeah, just continuing to play on both sides of the puck. I know Coach Steve is really keen on specific things in the D zone. So just making sure I play that. And then I think the offense can take care of itself there.
I would imagine that you continue to compete at this level because there's a competitor inside of you that you really like to be able to challenge yourself in that way. If I were to ask you, is there another big why for you other than just the competition or the ability to wear, your national team crest? Are there other things or people that you play for?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think it's for the people that continue to show up for the sport of hockey, especially on the women's game, the little girls, little boys, adults who kind of never really got to live out that dream. I think that's important for me, but also the ones that paved the way. We've heard many stories of all the different leagues that people have participated in, and just how they continue to fight and continue to push that marker forward. So, I mean, I remain really grateful for that. I think, like, you see how interconnected the hockey world is, and it's incredible to see some of those women who played on the national teams now doing broadcasting roles. So I think it's for them, but also for all the little girls and boys out there that kind of can dream and aspire to be a part of something big one day, like the Professional Women's Hockey League.
Quick follow-up then on that. Did you have a specific player growing up from Hockey Canada that embodied that for you?
Well, my favorite player was definitely Marie-Philippe Poulin. I think she's an incredible leader, incredible person. But I just feel fortunate to be able to see that every single day, whether she's checking in with me just throughout the months or I get to see her in person. I think she truly embodies what it is to be a tremendous leader, and she's definitely going to go down as one of the greatest humans, but also greatest hockey players out there. So I feel fortunate for that for sure.
Awesome. That's why I think Danielle Sardagny, as a member of the Seattle Torrent, is someone that folks should keep an eye on when it comes to this rivalry series. But who else would you say?
Oh, just wanted to add on to that because Danielle Sardagny is also from Edmonton.
There you go.
Hopefully she gets a little bit of that boost, and hopefully being at home for a little bit can reinvigorate her and give her some confidence going in.
We love it. We love to see it. That's right. We did mention that. Okay, but so the hometown gal, Sardagny, who else from our Torrent roster, either US or Canada, who we will see in the rivalry series, do you think folks should keep an eye on?
Let's go Cayla Barnes. You mentioned her. She's a player that I don't want to say she gets overlooked because I think she's appreciated a lot. But even if we think back to like the power play and the Torrent's first win, I attribute a lot of that to her because she was driving that power play. She was getting the zone entry. She's kind of the mastermind behind a lot of the things going on. So
I love that you said that.
Yeah, she's a player that gets overlooked a little bit because she's not like the flashy goal scorer all the time, but she's doing so much hard work on defense to be like responsible and also like setting everything up.
Yeah, I love that you said that because you're absolutely right. Carpi did put in a lot of work as well. However, the person most often recycling the puck deep into the zone and maintaining the zone, Cayla Barnes. There were a few times where she was teetering on that blue line, but was able to keep the zone because, again, they were on a power play. But if you keep the zone on a power play, then you're hemming your opponent. They get tired legs, all of the things, and they needed all of that to score. So I like that pick. Okay, let's expand outside of the Seattle Torrent because I know there's some other names of players that you think folks should be watching for Rivalry Series.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ignore Abby Murphy. after what she did in the first leg of Rivalry Series, getting a hat trick,
nasty business.
Not ignore Abby Murphy. And I think in that first leg of the Rivalry Series, the conversation was, oh, Canada didn't bring their best players. But if Abby Murphy is able to perform as well as she did in the first leg, in the second leg, if she's able to still put up points, then start ringing the alarm bell. Because she's officially a problem.
Like, yeah, Abby Murphy arrived in a big way. Now we're about to find out if she's here to stay. I love that. I love that pick 100%. I don't think you can overlook, again, Anne-Renee Desbiens coming back for Hockey Canada. My assumption is that if she's back, she's going to be in net. And if Anne-Renee Desbiens is in net, it's extremely hard to take that away from her. Like, that's just how she plays. And again, Hockey Canada, they're going to ride with their go-to. And honestly, I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm okay with that. I like those picks. Before we move on to our power rankings and wrap up this week's show, I have to give some stick taps once again to the Women's Czech Hockey Report. Preston does a great job there. I think anyone who's listened to me podcast about women's hockey for like the past 10 years knows that I love the international game and I don't appreciate the overwhelming North American exceptionalism that has been a part of the storyline. That's starting to open up because of people like Preston. So again, stick taps to him. But there also, it's an international break and there's Euro Tour. So there have been, I think, 3 different stages. This being the third and closest to the Olympics, where teams like Switzerland, Finland, and of course Czechia are also competing in, I don't know if I would call it a friendly. I think we'll call it a, it's an exhibition style tournament. I mean, is there anything on the line as far as like IIHF and Olympics? No. And these are critical games for these European federations ahead of the Olympics. And so again, check out the Czech Women's Hockey Report. Preston wrote something, a primer before the games on December 10th, again, the day that we're recording. And then we also did see, at least for Czechia, they've already played a game. I will also have some instructions from Preston on how to watch these games. So check out blackrosiemedia.com when we post this with the video and audio link. I will also give what Preston said as far as how to watch these games. It's a little complicated. I hope you have a VPN, but we're going to do our best. But if you don't want to do all of that, again, check Women's Hockey Report. It will be in the show notes as well because Preston has you covered. But something that he was talking about is something that we know for all of the teams that get to compete in these exhibition style tournaments is that this is a key window for final Olympic selection. Now, it's not for every player. There's certain players that we're running on the assumption that barring injury, they're likely going to be on their Olympic team. But then there are other players we talked about, like Sardakny, maybe, perhaps, that they need these repetitions. And even if they don't contribute as they want on the ice, another thing, and you hear coaches talk about this as well, Ava, is how are they interacting with teammates? How coachable are they? What are they able to bring to the table in practice and things of that nature? Because you talked about it before, right? chemistry perhaps is what we're not seeing with these expansion teams. And in a tournament where the stakes are super high, there's an Olympic medal on the line. Chemistry might make all the difference.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what you see with Team Canada as well. Like, it's all about how the players are fitting together. It's like in Vancouver as well. Like, you can have great players, but if they don't fit together, like, it's not going to work. Like, I think we tend to almost dehumanize players in a way, especially when it comes to sports. We're always just looking at stats, but at the end of the day, they're humans, and it's a team sport.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So Sweden, Switzerland, Finland, again, Finland and Switzerland at the Olympic level, at the IIHF Worlds level, have been able to medal as high as silver at times, but they're jockeying for that number 3 spot, if we're being real. It's still US, Canada overwhelmingly who lead the way. I think that players to watch when it comes to Euro Tour, or at least players to know about, I'm going to go with someone who I got to see in the PHF. She won the last ever Isabel Cup alongside Teresa Vanishova, and that is Dominika Lashkova. Now, unfortunately, in the PWHL, her time in Montreal was really limited because of injury, long-term injury. However, this is a powerhouse player, plays on the blue line on the back end, but is absolutely someone that can get up in the defense. This is what Preston had to say over at Women's Czech Hockey Report. Quietly rebuilt her game, Lashkova that is, in the SDHL, so that's the Swedish league. After last year's injury-laden PWHL season, she's sitting on 17 points in 24 games from the blue line. So again, I'm telling you, if you like defenders that can score, Dominika Lashkova is someone who you should have on your list.
Oh, you know who's been standing out to me a lot has been Natalie Mlenkova over on Vancouver.
Yes, exactly. I love that. And again, there's so many great international players as well. And I want to be able to, I know this is our Seattle Torrent podcast, and like we dabble, we talk about a little bit.
Seattle Torrent is related to Czech women's hockey because of
Taralova, 100%. Exactly. And I just love giving shine to everyone. We did talk about this player earlier and her physical game. Kristina Koltenkova, again, her physicality has 19 penalty minutes. 5 of those we already talked about on this episode. A record-breaking career at Colgate, Preston writes, a world championship all-star nod. So she was coming into the draft with all of that, as we talked about. This is a fantastic player. And again, someone that you get to see the Seattle Torrent play against, because she's with the Sirens, the New York Sirens. And then I'm going to give a shout out to Lara Stalder. If you know anything about the Minnesota Duluth program, you know that she was one of the stars, international stars, that really helped anchor that program into one of the programs that we saw beat tops in the WCHA. She plays for Switzerland, an Olympian. I would love to see her play again in North America. She has, though, committed playing her pro career in Europe, and I respect it. Lara Stalder is someone else that if you are able to watch the Euro Tour, and again, we'll have some instructions in the show notes and on our website, blackrosiemedia.com. But if you can't watch her before the Olympics, definitely circle those Switzerland games because you're not going to want to miss that. All right, Ava, we're going to close out the show with power rankings and a little bit of an interlude before you give this week's rankings. As a reminder, last week, what we decided on was Montreal, Minnesota, New York Sirens, and Boston. These are power rankings, not necessarily the standings. So those are a little different. We'll talk about that. Then we had Toronto, Ottawa, Vancouver, and Seattle. That's what we settled on last time. And I'm going to give you a minute to think about your rankings for this week. But before we do that, so listen, Rachel and I on our PWHL Weekly podcast, she talked about Heated Rivals. And I have not read the books at the time. Or Heated Rivalry, excuse me. At the time, I still haven't read the books, and at the time, I had not seen any of the episodes of Heated Rivalry. Since I definitely have, and let me just say it this way: Rachel said on our show she's like, I know this is a women's hockey show, and it's, you know, it's about gay hockey players, or not just about that, but it's like their relationships, right? And but what Rachel said is that heated rivals is, or heated rivalry, I keep saying rivals, heated rivalry is definitely for the girls and for the gays. And as someone who, in addition to being a sports mind and just loving sports, there are two specific sports that are my favorite for the same exact reason. And it's the bubble butt, and it's baseball and hockey. And episode 1 did not disappoint.
Yeah, there's a lot of butts in the show for sure.
You know, there's a lot of butts. There's a lot of butts. So, you know, if that's your vibe, heated rivalry, go for it. But Ava, yeah. I know that you're a little more, you know, into the culture of obviously the books and things of that nature. So what have been your impressions of the series so far?
Honestly, I think they are doing a really good job of adapting the series, and it's been cool to just see what a cultural moment it's become, because I think, like, regardless of how good the show actually is, like, it's kind of getting people talking about, hey, there's gay men that are gay hockey players, right? And it's kind of, I think, almost forcing this conversation. Like, when you look at them playing the heated rivalry trailer on the Jumbotron at Bell Center, it's like, whoa, I did not expect that. It's like, I think for a long time, it's kind of been one of those things where people almost just don't talk about it. It's like, oh, there's no gay NHL players in Bossing, say, or whatever that meme is, you know? Like, it just, people want to talk about it. So now it's like, you can't really not talk about it. So at least it's forcing a conversation. And ultimately, like, yes, it's men's hockey, but at the end of the day, men's hockey and women's hockey are both hockey. Those two cultures are interwoven. So to see this happening, even though I think the main focus right now is on men's hockey, I think it will have an impact on women's hockey as well. And all, like, LGBTQ community is part of all different folks, and we all support each other. So
100%. I did see in passing, it came up on my For You page, that someone was like, well, if you like heated rivalry, then here are like the actual real life Sapphic versions, right? And so, of course, people mentioned Julie Chu, Carolyn Willett. You can go Megan Duggan. You can go, I mean, if you know women's hockey culture, you know that there's some interchangeable parts, let's just say. But, you know, Hillary now is dating a U.S. Olympic speed skater. So we've got that. But the Canada-U.S. rivalry has always had threads and through lines of love connections. I'll just put it that way. I'm not putting anyone's relationship or past relationships on the spot. If you know, you know, but we can definitely go with the ones that we know for sure. So I think it'll be interesting. Hopefully we'll get there, right? Where we can have these characters really represent fully and holistically the athletes, right? I think it's Megan Rapinoe has said, like, you can't win a championship without a queer person on your team, which I love. And so she's like, we can tell you who they are in women's sports.
Shout out Liz Shepherds, by the way, gave winning goals in the Walter Cup game.
Exactly. There you go. There you go. We can point them out, like the majority. Not everyone is, you know, sharing their business, which is totally fine. I know you and I have had this conversation with a few other creators. I personally don't share my business because that's just not how I roll. And that's totally fine. But for those who are out there, part of the queer community, putting it out there, we love it. We are so grateful, you know, that is something that they share with us. Again, I try to be supportive in allyship. And like, love is love. Like, hockey is hockey and love is love. And I think people need examples, right, of that too. Like, what are relationships that work when you're playing the same sports or doing the same things, or maybe not doing the same things, you know? Like, there is inspiration in so many different ways. So I just wanted to give you a chance to talk about heated rivalry. Okay, now enough stalling, Ava. Let's go. What are we doing with our power rankings? Second ever here at 206 Sports Collective.
Okay, well, I think we should start with the top and the bottom, and then we can kind of fill it in and
fill everything in. Okay. All right. Who's your number one?
I think Boston.
Boston. That's fair. Like at first we were like, okay, is this real? Like we see you, but is it really you? I think Boston has earned the number one spot for sure.
Because at first I was like, oh, it's just they're getting lucky and Montreal was playing bad and it's just all Aaron Frankel. But honestly, I think it's kind of undeniable that they had a really good draft.
Yeah.
Like Abby Newhook. Like they have offense now. So
and that'll do it. That'll do it every time. Okay. So earlier we were trying to decide between Montreal, Minnesota, and Boston. Also, New York was up there. I do think New York's probably more middle of the pack as of right now. So who do you have in that number 2 spot?
I think Montreal.
I think so too.
Between Montreal and Minnesota.
You know, here's why I like Montreal, because I was looking at the stats for our weekly show, and they don't have the most goals for, but they definitely don't have a lot of goals against. So even though the offense hasn't maybe opened up in the way for Montreal that we maybe expect, what they're getting is solid defense and solid goaltending. And you can't say that even for some of the other teams that are winning. And so that's why I think Montreal has earned that 2 spot. I like what they're doing. As you know, I'm always going to lean on the defensive side of things. So I think they've earned a solid 2.
Also, from a vibes perspective, they just have good vibes. Like
vibes are high.
Was fighting for their life, and they were like, "We're at an outdoor rink, guys. They're having fun right now." So you know what? They can have 2.
All right, we'll take 2 for Montreal. All right, that means we got to decide between Minnesota, Toronto, and New York, I guess, at 3, 4, 5.
I think Minnesota
at 3. Yeah,
I thought Toronto was better, but then seeing them actually go up against Montreal, I was like, okay, this was kind of your chance to like put a stamp on things, but Montreal low-key ate y'all up, so
yeah. All right, so then if it's Minnesota at 3, then is it Toronto, you think, at 4 and then New York, or do you take New York over Toronto?
This is where I'm not sure. To be honest.
Yeah, I feel you. It's not an easy one. I think sometimes like Natalie Spooner just is like a cheat code. Go ahead.
I think you're right. I think Toronto still has a high ceiling, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. I think New York has shown some weaknesses. Like I said, they're on a little bit of a skid on their West Coast trip. The game against Seattle, as we've talked about on this show, really could have gone either way. And likely if they didn't get that penalty. And again, if it was just a power play versus a 5-minute, does that make a difference? I think maybe it would have, right?
You know what you're making me think of is also because Micah Zandy Hart took that conduct in the first game. So they've definitely had discipline issues. But then again, that's something that they could clean up, right?
Right, exactly. I think if you think of the power rankings just week for week, I
think that you have to put Sirens down.
I think so. I think so. I think Toronto had the better week. Are they the better team? That's why I like looking at power rankings, yes, based on what they've done cumulatively. But for me, sometimes the week to week has more of an impact. Also, it just makes for a more dramatic power ranking.
Oh, what did you think about Elaine Chuli's game, though? Because we got to see her in that for Toronto.
Elaine! I love Elaine Chuli. Talked about this before, playing behind Anne-Renee Desbiens. We talked about it on this show, but I've talked about Chuli specifically, playing behind Anne-Renee Desbiens. We weren't going to get to see the fullness that Chuli can bring. She is, to this day, the reason that the Toronto Six won a championship, the last ever championship in the Premier Hockey Federation. And she's a fantastic goaltender. Also, the storytelling behind her mask, and now she's in Toronto, and like Cujo and all of that stuff. I didn't know who that man was, but I loved that for Elaine Chuli. So I loved it. Thank you for asking, because I love Elaine Julie. I really do. And I do think Julie had a great game. And I do think Toronto had a better week than New York. So I would put them ahead of the Sirens.
That makes sense to me.
And then now this is tough again. Okay, I think let's just start with the quote unquote low hanging fruit. It's Ottawa at 8, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't want to be mean to Ottawa because I feel like I've been a savage to Ottawa, and I'm like, you know what? I understand that they have a lot going on, and like, shout out Carla. So it's like I understand they have a lot going on, and I just hate that they're also the worst team in the league right now.
Why? But they do this to us every year, or at least for the last 2 seasons. I'm like, Gwyneth Phillips making amazing saves, and we can't even talk about that. We can't even talk about that because it was against Toronto where they had the lead late in the game, and then they couldn't keep it. And I just want so much. I want so much more for Ottawa. Like they can be so much better, and that was like, the face palm of last season, but we're seeing it like trickle into this year. I just want more for Ottawa. It's not that we hate you, Ottawa. Clearly, I could never. Katarzyna Mrazova is still on Ottawa, and I love her down. That is like, talk about, you want to talk about, okay, we talked about how we're going to have a new segment. I might have to have a segment on Katarzyna Mrazova. We'll plan it when they come to play the Torrent so that it's actually relevant. But I have things to say. And y'all need to put some respect on Katarzyna Mrazova's name, okay? Period. Katka is the truth. Anyway, so let's put that aside. We agree Ottawa's 8. Are they going to stay there? For their sake, I hope not. But they're number 8. And, okay. And this is when it gets tough. First home win, dramatic fashion, rookie in net versus a very important bounce back against a top offensive team. That's tough.
Yeah. So Vancouver needed that win badly.
So bad.
So badly. Because despite all of Seattle's struggles, Vancouver was in the absolute basement. Like, I think something shifted because that they had to get that win at home. Because if they showed up and they did not put on a good performance at home, it would have been like 3 bad games in a row.
Yeah, it would have been nasty. Like, not in the good way. Yeah, and again, I went hard in the paint for Kara. I still stand on that. So Vancouver, you need to get your life together because I believe in you hard. My girl Vanisha was there. Sarnos unfortunately is hurt. But I like what y'all are putting together. So you got to get it together.
Yeah. Mashmeyer was amazing. Mashmeyer was amazing. And they were scoring goals.
And see, for me, as much as I'm a defensive girly, I think in this case where both got much needed wins.
Okay, here's what I have to say about Seattle.
Okay.
Because
go.
So Seattle can't score 5-on-5. That is a huge issue. You know I love my Torrent, but it's like, guys, why can't we score 5-on-5?
Facts are facts.
But Hannah Murphy, I think, raises the overall power ranking because she was phenomenal. And that was something that people honestly didn't know. Like, obviously, everybody thought she was going to be really good. But we don't know.
We didn't know. Like, and they needed that game. And she stood up. Like, she came to play. I was like, okay, let me find out. You got a little scrap in you, a little sandpaper.
Yeah.
So, like, she held it down.
Yeah. I love my Torrent. Unfortunately, I have to admit, I think Vancouver's probably stronger.
I think so too. I'm glad we agree because for me, as you know, I love my defense. And I think for the week that Vancouver had, the fact that we did see them score multiple goals was huge. It took a little bit of extra circumstance for Seattle. Still a significant win. They had to execute that, right? Like, they had to keep shooting the puck. They had to keep attacking. And so there is value in that. It got them above Ottawa, but I don't think it gets them past Vancouver this week.
Yeah, I just want to say the most impressive thing about the Seattle win to me wasn't just that they got the first goal, it was that they got the second goal. Winning in regulation. That was really stood out.
100%. They needed a regulation win. So did Vancouver. But I think we agree we're going to go Vancouver 6, Seattle 7, and we already know who comes in 8. These are a very painstaking, very unofficial, vibes only power rankings.
We had some real facts in there.
We did, but we also go by vibes, which is fine. It's totally fine. Like, I think if people who did power rankings were honest, then they would be going on vibes sometimes too. And that's fine. That's fine. But those are our power rankings for the 206 Sports Collective. Our deep dive into the Seattle Torrent. I alluded to this, but we're going to keep growing this show. So if there are things that you want to see when it comes to Seattle Torrent things specifically, let us know. We are going to have a rant session. I don't know if we're going to do it every episode, but we're going to have a standing segment where one of us just gets to go off on a specific topic. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. But we want you to join in the conversation. Again, if you're not already, follow Black Rosie Media. That's where the 206 Sports Collective lives. On YouTube, on social media, on IG. Actually, 206 Sports Collective has its own IG account, so check that out. And you got to make sure you follow 365 Hockey Girl. We are beyond 365 days into our next year. And Ava, there's also something else that 365 Hockey Girl launched.
Oh, yeah. I just started a Discord. So if you want to join the conversation, come to Discord. It's really awesome because in the comments, you're pretty much just talking to me. But in Discord, you're talking to everybody else. So come to the Discord.
We love that. We love that. And you can also join Black Rosie Media Slack channel if, in addition to hockey, you like talking women's basketball. We're going to have some soccer commentators joining us in the spring. So lots of good stuff. Tonight on Black Rosie Media, we're going live to talk about Chris DeMarco, the new New York Liberty head coach. And he said some things that definitely got some people fired up, especially knowing that there are no Black women head coaches in the WNBA right now. So if that's your vibe, join the Black Rosie Media Slack channel because we had a whole conversation, Hunty, about that earlier. But for the hockey things, absolutely check out the 365 Hockey Girl Discord. But there's something else, Ava, that you wanted to say.
There is?
I thought so. Like before I mentioned the Discord, it looked like you were going to say something else. And then I said Discord because I thought that's what you were going to say.
No, I was going to say I'm 366 Hockey Girl today.
Oh, 366. I love that. I love it. Fantastic. Well, either way, Ava, thank you so much for joining us again. 365 Hockey Girl or 366. Either way, Ava on TikTok, social media, all the things. And of course, Black Rosie Media everywhere you can find it. We gave a lot of shout outs to Preston because he and his crew over at Women's Czech Hockey Report absolutely deserve it. So go check that out. And on Saturday on Black Rosie Media, I will be joined by Angelica Rodriguez, and we will give our overview of the PWHL and, of course, the Rivalry Series. But for Ava Wood, Erica L. Ayala, and I'll close out, as I do with all of my Seattle hockey shows, a reminder, be kind to yourself. That can be a full-time job in and of itself. And if you do that, sister girl, homeboy, I'm proud of you. I see you. I love you.
I'm working on that.
Hey, listen, it's hard work and you deserve it. So be kind to yourself. When you're willing and able, extend that kindness to other people. Spread love. It's the Brooklyn way. Hold fast. Stay true. Let's go Kraken. Oh, Lord, let's go Kraken. Please get a win. Please get a win sometime soon. And let's go Torrent. We'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out, everybody.